Holy mackerel! You won't believe what showed up in the mail today. Out of the blue. I didn't even ask for it. It's the latest innovation in kayak trolling motors. Stay tuned and I'll show you what I mean. Well, here it is. It's the PacMotor, the innovative dual motor system to propel your kayak. And you can't really appreciate the great features of this unless I put it side by side with my traditional kayak motor and install it over there on the kayak so you can see how it's going to work. Here's my traditional Newport kayak trolling motor. It weighs about 25 pounds and has 36 pounds of thrust. I had to make my own mount for it. Here's the one part of it, the other part's permanently on my kayak. Now the PacMotor has two thrusters, and combined they put out about 24 pounds of thrust. It has a remote control, and this is how you're going to control it, and that's going to be a lot easier than having to reach behind the seat and use this handle. It also comes with spare propellers and weed guards to apply to the motors in case that's an issue with you. It's got a charger and of course the battery cable. In addition, PacMotor sells their own battery system for this, but I've got a 100 amp hour trolling motor that's lithium, so I'm good to go. Let's go ahead and install this on the kayak and we'll be able to compare with the traditional trolling motor, and you'll kind of see some of the advantages of this innovative motor right here. When mounting a traditional kayak trolling motor to your kayak, you're faced with building a mount yourself, unless you're buying one of the high-end models like a Torqeedo or a Bixby, and I think they come with the mount given the price. But when you're buying the low-end trolling motor like I've got, you're faced with doing it yourself. Here's the do-it-yourself solution I came up with. I've got a bar right here, and this goes in, and this arrangement right here probably adds 10 pounds to the kayak. Then I hang the trolling motor on this. Now the problem you can see with this is pretty obvious. I've now got about 25 pounds of weight hanging off the left side of my kayak. And what that does is make the kayak want to tip, which decreases the speed and makes it more uncomfortable when I'm sitting. So what I've had to do in the past is push my battery all the way over to the other side in an attempt to balance this out. So here's the first obvious problem with this traditional arrangement. Note that even with the handle fully extended, I'm at an awkward angle when I'm sitting in the seat to go back here to change the speeds. Typically I'll just lock it down so it's shooting straight back, and I'll use my rudder controls to steer the boat. But now the other thing with this is, since this is not a transom mount all the way in the back, when I turn, the boat tends to skid a little bit and I'm never able to get a tight turn. But when you look at trying to control the speed as well as trying to deal with pulling the motor up when you hit an obstacle, I just couldn't figure out a way that was easy to have this mounted to the transom. Well, the PacMotor, granted it's a high-end solution just like Torqeedo and Bixby, it solves all this. So let me go ahead and put it on and I'll show you what I mean. The PacMotor installs really easy. The first thing you need to do is let out all the straps, and then you're just going to run it up underneath your kayak and move it as close to the seat as you want. So you can note right here that I'm all set. Then I'll straighten out the strap underneath to make sure I've got a nice level strap so it's not creating any kind of drag as I move. Now the next step is I'll tighten down the straps and of course adjust the distance here in the middle to fit my kayak. The first time you install the motor, it's going to take a little bit of time because you've got to adjust the pins to the appropriate distance to match the width of your kayak, and you're going to need to really honk down on the straps here to tighten it around the bottom. Now there is a problem that can be overcome. You notice that my anchor trolley right here goes underneath this strap. Well, it's fairly easy, and PacMotor has a couple videos to show you how you can remove this strap and then reroute it so it goes underneath your anchor trolley, and then that doesn't become an issue anymore. The last step is you have these straps and you run those through your handle or some other thing you can leverage against, and then you're going to tighten these, and they're cam straps, and that's going to lock the PacMotor in place. And you do this on both sides. Once both of these straps are in place, your motor is in here nice and solid. Now the first thing to notice here is that it's an easy pull on this pin to drop the thruster down. And so this is another great thing about this. So let me show you. Once I drop this down, I can change the angle and the depth that this is running at. So here's the depth that I think I would typically run this at, because it is just barely below the hull on my kayak. And that means that I'm more likely to hit something with my front before it engages back here on the thruster. And this is still about 12 inches below my water line, which is right here on this seam. And so that gives me plenty of distance from the top of the water to allow this to work effectively. And here's the other neat thing. If I do hit an obstacle, it's as easy as pulling this pin up and rotating the thruster out of the way, and then I can either pedal or paddle across the obstacle. Now, the other thing to note is that once you get this thing on, and if you're going to use the trolling motor all the time, you don't really have a need to take it off. This only weighs 9 pounds, so it's not like it is with that 20-25 pound traditional trolling motor that's going to get in the way of your truck bed or your trailer. This can just sit here and you can move down the road just fine. Well, let's check out the thrusters. Let me pull this off my cart and let's just kind of see how the remote control works. I've got the battery hooked up using the connections provided by PacMotor, but I'm going to replace those with a quick connect, because if I happen to flip over, I don't want the battery to stay connected to my kayak. One, it'll make it harder to flip the boat back over, and two, in the case of the PacMotor, I don't want it to pull against the motor assembly itself and potentially ruin it. So quick connect, no matter what kind of trolling motor, is always the way to go. So it comes with a nice remote control here that floats with a lanyard, so if you do fall off, the lanyard will stay attached to your body. Now let's go ahead and work the motors. And what I want to see here is that when I'm going forward, both the motors are pushing water back. When I'm going backwards, they're pushing them this way. And when I'm turning, they're going in opposite directions. So let's check that out. Yep, they both lurch forward. They're both heading back. That is really cool. This was pushing water this way, that one was pushing water the other way, and that's how they get the skid steer turned that you can see in this video from their website. Check this out. Full 360-degree circle, easy. So it ends up being a pretty nice package. However, there is the one question that I can't answer because it's too cold for me to go out in the water right now. It's just too dangerous. I don't have a dry suit. And that is, will this motor with the approximately 25 pounds of thrust move my Jackson Coosa FD, which weighs 120 pounds before I get in it? I only weigh 163. Will it move it quickly? And for that, I'll ask the PacMotor folks to comment.
So it's Matt here down in Florida, and Steve requested us to try to prove that the PacMotor can push a bunch of weight. So we got 6 blocks here that are about 38 pounds each, plus another half. So plus the weight of me, if you add that up, that'll be well over 350 pounds, maybe closer to 400 pounds. So we're gonna give this a shot and see how it can push it.
I am letting the video move without being sped up at all. So you can see that the PacMotor is pushing this heavily laden kayak as well as doing the skid steer turn with no problem at all with all that weight. Amazing.
All right, so you've seen it happen in action. I was able to take the PacMotor out, go up and down the canals, do some turns, come back. Everything works great. There's enough power to push it, and I'm actually way overweighted. So I wanted to do that to demo. So thanks a lot, Steve.
Well, there we go. That's a good enough answer for me. I can't wait to get this out on the water to really test it out and see how it performs. I think this is a pretty cool system for a couple reasons. One, you get that skid steer type stern. You have access to everything directly from your seat. It runs shallow effectively, and that allows you to avoid obstacles. It's also really light, and that means that you're not really adding, a bazillion pounds of weight to an already heavy kayak. And in a way, that kind of counteracts a little bit of the thrust disadvantage that this has versus a traditional kayak trolling motor. Because I'll bet by having the thrust evenly divided on both sides of the kayak, you're actually getting better forward motion than the thrust skewed to one side or the other. Unless, of course, you figure out how to do the traditional kayak in a transom mount. Now, this is a high-end motor. It is up there in the same price range as the Torqeedo and Bixby, although it is a little bit less expensive. I think the current retail price on this is $899, so that's a lot, but it has a lot of advantages as well. I can use my existing lithium battery, but if you need one, they have one that's custom made to fit with this that you can also purchase from them. Do you guys have a perspective on this? What do you think? Throw your comments down below. In the meantime, I'm looking forward to getting this out of the water.